Hello, nature lovers, and welcome to another exciting episode of Environmental Systems and Societies. Today is part 4 of our population dynamics series, and I'm going to talk to you about population pyramids, also known as age-sex pyramids, and I'm going to talk to you about demographic transition models, which is a way we look at how countries change over time economically and socially. So this, my friends, is a population pyramid. The reason we call it an age-sex pyramid is because it differentiates by age and by gender. So you have males on the left, you have females on the right. The bottom tells you how many millions there are, and then each bar in here tells you how many people are in that 5-year span. So the 0 to 4 age group, the 5 to 9 age group, the 10 to 14 age group, and so on and so forth. So by the size of that bar, you can see exactly how many males are in that age group, which means if you look at this in the 30 to 34-year-old age group, we have 2 million males. If you look to the right, we see we have 2 million females in the 30 to 34. We add that together, we've got 4 million people in the 30 to 34. You put all this together and you add up all your bars and you can actually see how many people are in the country at that year, okay? Now, we look at it over time and we can see changes. So it shows you 1 year, you can look and see several changes. But what's interesting is you can also sort of predict the economic situation of the country by the shape of their pyramid. If you look on the left, you have a lot of babies born, but a lot of people die. So at old age, it's a very skinny top here. And that tends to be a less economically developed country. You look to the right, like stage 3, and you have a lot of people born, and most of them live. As you go up the thing, very few die, and even at the top, you have a lot of old people. So that's indicative of a more economically developed country. And so the more rounded it is, the more developed, more pyramidal shape, the less developed. And again, we compare these over time, year by year by year, and they put this in a graph. They figured out that, hey, if you really look at this over time, this is what we sort of see as this sort of transition from less economically developed on the left to more economically developed on the right. The birth rates and the death rates are really high on the left. The population level is low on the left, but then it switches. The death and the birth rates are low on the right, and the population is high on the right. And in the middle, everybody crosses over everybody. And so depending on what stage you're in of economic development, this is what we would expect to see your birth, death, and population rates to be. Okay, so let's look at it stage by stage. The first stage is called pre-industrial society, and it really is your very, very low economically developed countries. So you have high birth rate, you have, and the reason is you have no birth control, you have lots of infant death, you have cultural factors that we talked about, and it makes that very sharp pyramidal shaped curve. You have low population on the bottom and high death and birth rates. The LEDC that we always talk about, a lot of your sub-Saharan Africa, is this second one. And it's really, what's kind of cool is you start to get sanitation, you start to get food, so disease drops and the death rate plummets. The birth rate's still high, however, which is why we have this sharp increase in population right there, okay? Now we get to this real transition stage, and this is a wealthy LEDC. They're not an MEDC yet, but they're wealthier. And basically what happens is now is because people are living longer, we have all these cultural factors kick in, like education and women's rights, and our population is still going up, but the birth rate's starting to drop, the death rate's already dropped, and that makes the population start to even out towards the end. Now we're in an MEDC in stage 4. The population is very much starting to stabilize, and the birth and death are low. And then finally you get to this 5th stage, which wasn't always there. And in this stage, what happens is the death rate kind of stays even, but the birth rate drops. So we have less people being born, but we have a lot of people living their full lives, and our population stays even, but it's more old people than young people. And so this is actually a new problem that's happening demographically in some countries like Germany and even the United States. We used to have 5 or 6 or 10 young people to support each old person. Right now, currently, we're about 3 young people to support an old person. And then in the future, we're expecting 2 or even 1-to-1 ratio. Old people are much more expensive to take care of because of healthcare than young people. So this is becoming a real social problem. Now, what are criticisms of this model? Well, basically, the problem is that it is accurate in a large sense, but there are many, many, many countries that break the rules, that don't have they don't follow the lines that I just explained to you. So the first one would be that there didn't used to be a fifth stage to the model. This is a new thing that we started to see in the demographic trends, and so we had to add a stage that showed less births and more old people, and that's what this model shows right here, right? We also, there's a lot of problems with birth rates and death rates not accurately reflecting what's happening. So as people are becoming more educated, the birth rates are being affected differently than expected. The same with as people move to the factories and so forth. We have weird death rates that are attributed more to urbanization than anything. So when you put all this together, it's a so-so model. It does explain a lot of things, and it's more of a predictor than anything. It says we predict a country in this stage of development to have a birth and death rate and population rate that looks like this, but there's no guarantee that's true. Okay, it's just a rough idea. So what I'm hoping you got out today was how a age-sex pyramid works, how to read one, and to understand that if you look at them over time, you can see changes in countries. And then when we generalize those changes that we've seen over time, we've made a demographic transition model from this that makes predictions based on the economic development of a country, what their birth and death and population rates are. If you have any questions, please let me know. Otherwise, I hope you have a great day. Peace out, homie. Yellow belly, sap sucker.